Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take some time and go through the director's take on the Season 8 changes for Overwatch 2. And Coach Theory is going to walk us through his opinions on the different changes and the implications that we can see on the other side of this. Let's dive in.
Directors take a balanced preview for Season 8. The first thing they're doing is they're reducing the amount of ult charge you retain, like when you swap heroes, from 25% to 15%. And actually, when at release, this used to be like 30, maybe 35. I know it was at least 30, and then they reduced it to 25%. That's going down to 15%, which is interesting. And you know, there's a lot of opinions about counter swapping and how there's like a rock paper scissors kind of meta of the game, and how you should always swap to counter other people. And this is basically just making there to be less incentive to be swapping. So I don't really know how much I feel about this. I don't think there should be any ult charge like being kept. Like I think if you just playing a hero and you switch, I don't even think you should have any ult charge, but it doesn't really matter that much. It's only 15% now. I'm not even sure how much we're gonna fill that. They're talking about Roadhog. They're not switching anything about Roadhog yet. How strong do you think Roadhog has been right now?
I mean, Roadhog to me has been interesting, especially since, you know, you and I have talked a lot, and maybe I'm a little bit biased about Roadhog after hearing your opinions, but I know Roadhog is just so self-sustained, and with his changes with his trap, he's just a kind of a bit of an anomaly, I would say, within the ecosystem, it feels like. And so, you know, now everyone's going to be playing Mauga, or at least a lot of people, I'm sure, just like a lot of people were playing Roadhog. I mean, my assumption is they're just trying not to have a knee-jerk reaction to everyone switching to the character that's had a rework, which, like Sombra. Not to say that he doesn't need to be changed, but my thought process is maybe, and I didn't get a chance to play Mauga. I was at BlizzCon this year, but I didn't get a chance to play Mauga and see kind of like what his dynamic is with Roadhog. So, you know, I'm sure they'll fix it or work towards fixing it, I guess, if there is an issue. But it's interesting. The state of where Roadhog is, it's frustrating. I mean, last night we were playing against some Roadhogs, and it was surprising to me how sustainable they were with 0 supports left, and how much we had to dump into them.
I think Roadhog does have, I think he has pretty insane sustainability now, because they already did do like one patch of buffs for Roadhog, where he just has like more healing. The main thing was just like more healing, I guess. That's the main thing I remember. Like the main point of the buff, I guess, was just to give him more sustain. But they do say he has a win rate of somewhere around 50%. But I mean, that's kind of expected, because Roadhog, he's very easy to get value. He's very easy to punish people for being out of position, and most players play out of position. So Roadhog is just going to win against those players. And you know, back in Season 1, Roadhog was very dominant in ranked, and he was just overtuned, but he was still at the highest level, not actually all that great, because people understood how to maintain their distance from Roadhog. But for the players that struggled with positioning and just maintaining that distance, the hooks were just really annoying them for the deal with. So I don't actually know how I feel about Roadhog. I can't tell if he's actually strong. I haven't played a crazy amount this season, so I don't really know where to put Roadhog, but you know, apparently he is overperforming the other tanks, so that is interesting. We'll see how that ends up going. Doomfist. I love this change. Doomfist, his ult is considered one of the weakest ults in the game. The meteor strike, a lot of times it doesn't get value, and people just kind of use it as an escape tool, as they talk about here. But so now he's going to regenerate 75 health per second while he's up in the air, like about to come down with meteor strike. So a lot of time people just have to disengage after going in, but now after they do a hard engage, they pop their ult. Now they can wait a little bit, get their HP back, and then re-engage out of the air, which is really cool change. I like that. Ratra. So here they're talking about when he's not in Nemesis form, just his base form, he's basically just kind of useless, which is kind of true. So they're going to give 100 of his health into armor, so he's going to have that 50% damage reduction on 100 more of his HP, and they're going to increase the size and damage of his projectiles. I don't think this is needed. I think Ratra is fine where he is. I think Ratra is a great tank when you're playing Brawl with like Baptiste and you're playing for that heavy close range just control of the map. I don't know. I don't know. They think this is needed, but Ratra is going to be very strong after this change. Winston. Winston isn't the best matchup for other tanks. This is part of the kit, but the disadvantage feels too extreme. We'd like to alleviate it a bit. In Season 8, Winston's Tesla cannon will now ignore armor. Oh, interesting. Armor's damage reduction. So just Winston's damage, just all of Winston's damage from his primary fire and his secondary fire will ignore the 50% damage reduction on all tanks. So that's going to be very good for Winston. So now Winston is going to have more flexibility, and he can actually brawl other tanks some more and actually do some meaningful damage to them while they still have the armor. So that's an interesting Winston buff for sure. It'll just make him more flexible in fights. So the DPS heroes, Sombra.
Yeah, the Sombra. This is the hot take one. I've heard some different opinions about this one.
Yeah, this is like the kind of the big one.
Yeah.
So they've changed Sombra a lot, and lately, you know, with the rework, she has her new like ability with the damage over time, and you know the constant invis now. She's very interesting. So win rate hovers between 45 and 48% depending on the rank. You know, again, I don't really care too much about win rates. Like, they always like to talk about their win rates and like make decisions based off of them, but you know, some heroes are harder than others to play, and some heroes are harder than others to play against. Like we were talking about Roadhog. Roadhog's pretty easy to play in comparison to how hard he might be to play against, you know? So like that's just gonna naturally skew his win rate to be more positive. And like with Sombra, I would say the new Sombra, I like the rework because she's more skilled to play now. You have to be more careful about when you're engaging and making sure you have an escape route, like to, you know, translocate to a high ground, or just understand where you need to translocate to, where before you just press E and now you're just out of the fight, like no skill involved, right? And then you just come back. I like that now. It feels like Sombra has a lot more higher of a skill ceiling, where she's harder to play. You have to think about your engagements more, and because she's harder to play, I think that's skewing her win rate down. But that's fine, because I think people are just still trying to learn how to play the new Sombra. And I don't necessarily mean, I don't think this means she needs a big buff or anything. I think we could just wait and let people learn her, and she could also just be a higher skilled hero that people need to learn how to play. But so let's see what they're actually going to do here. Ultimate isn't as satisfying as it could be. Okay, they're raising the ability of lockout time over EMP by 1.5 to 3 seconds, so 2 times longer on ability lockout, and reducing the amount of damage it does from 30 to 25% of maximum health. Is this actually a buff or a nerf? You know, I think it's kind of hard to say. Ability lockout 2 times more, okay, and then 5% less damage. So yeah, this is going to be overall buff. They're going to be taking less damage for the impact, but you know, not having your abilities for 2 times longer is absolutely going to be more meaningful than 5% damage. And I don't think this was necessary at all. Like, Sombra EMP is already such a strong ultimate, and in lower ranks it's going to be harder to get value because like the focus fire isn't as good. But if you're playing at a top 500 level, or even just Grandmaster level, and like you EMP, even if it's just one guy, and your team focuses them down with 30% damage buff on that guy, that's EMP'd. I mean, that is insane. You know, that is insane with the the EMP does an initial burst damage of 30%, but then once somebody's hacked, they're also taking that extra damage. It should be like 25% or whatever. And if people have that focus fire in a higher rank, they're gonna get bursted down so much faster. But in lower rank, sometimes the EMP could just feel useless. So I can understand the buff, but I don't think it's really necessary. I think now she's gonna be very overtuned at the highest level, and we're gonna probably see her get nerfed back down in the future, because a 3-second lockout on abilities at the highest level is just an insane advantage to have. So that is interesting for sure. Soldier, they're increasing his cooldown of his heal to 15 to 18 seconds. I don't know where this came from, honestly. I didn't expect a Soldier nerf. What did you think?
I mean, I've been seeing a lot of Soldier. Now, again, I don't play at the level that you play at, but definitely a lot of Soldier when I'm in ranked play, and a lot of good performance from Soldier. I don't know. I don't play a lot of Soldier, to be honest with you, so it's hard for me to have a strong opinion about this, other than I do feel like, now that could just be being a generally novice player, that Soldier is relatively strong and well played, at least in the gold bracket. Now again, in silver, like maybe it falls off, just like, you know, Roadhog earlier, right? Like Roadhog isn't necessarily seen at the highest levels of play. Soldier 76 definitely is a nice introduction hero for a lot of people that play other shooters that don't necessarily get into all the nuances of Overwatch and the technicality of it. So Soldier's an easy character to pick up and play, so maybe that's why a lot more people play him that I've seen versus maybe his skill level.
Yeah, whenever Overwatch 2 came out with the release of Soldier was very highly just outshined by Sojourn the entire time, because Sojourn was also very overtuned at release. So there was absolutely no reason to pick Soldier back then. But then they ended up nerfing Sojourn down, and that made Soldier more prevalent, but Sojourn was still kind of more favorable. So they ended up buffing Soldier's damage back then, actually. And so like since that point, I think Soldier has kind of become stronger after all the Soldier nerfs, and then Soldier's damage getting buffed kind of brought him back into like the bigger picture. But I don't know if that's a big enough reason to actually nerf his healing cooldown. I honestly am not as involved in like the highest level or just really in the meta of the game as I used to be, so maybe Soldier's just better than I thought, but I honestly didn't think that he would need a heal nerf. I guess Soldier just really has been making an impact from like the off angles, and that the extra damage that he got before is just pushing him over the edge a little bit. Oh, okay. Tracer. So at the release of Overwatch 2, Tracer's guns were doing 5 damage per shot, and maybe at season 2 or 3, they moved her damage up to 6, and she was absolutely insane. Like the how fast she could kill people was ridiculous. Okay, and then they ended up moving it down to 5.5 where it is right now. But now they're changing it back to 6. And apparently back then there was also some kind of bug, they're saying, with her fall off and spread, where she was able to do damage from ranges that she shouldn't be able to. So they were kind of compensating it for it with like tuning it down to 5.5. But even after like they fixed the bug, I think 6 is like too much damage for Tracer. But they're bringing her back to 6, and I don't think this is needed. But I love Tracer. She's my most played DPS. I love her so much. Like I'm always playing Tracer, like no matter how strong she is. And whenever she has 6 damage, she was absolutely the best DPS, like by far. She just outmatched everybody, and them bringing it back is actually crazy to me. Watch out for Tracer in the next season. Watch out for Tracer. Brig. Okay, so like. And like here, so they're saying Brig is the best performing support since the last patch. People are saying she's a must pick, whatever. And apparently, they ended up buffing the damage for a whip shot, and now they're nerfing that back down to whatever it was before. They don't say the numbers here of the damage. Awesome. Would love to know that, but
yeah.
I don't know why. But so Brig is one of those heroes that can kind of just skew the win rates, because Brig isn't necessarily that hard to play when you talk about like the value she can achieve. Like you can play Brig at like an average level, but still get a lot of value for her if you're just able to play passive and keep your inspire up, And because of that, her win rate's gonna be skewed higher. She's gonna have a bigger win rate because she's easier to play. And I don't really like when they make these changes, like of nerfing people just because they have a higher win rate. Like that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a better hero, it just means they're easier to play a lot of the time. So they're nerfing a whip shot damage back down. I'm fine with this change. I think it was feeling a little high. Like sometimes I would die to a whip shot and I'd be like, really? That was a lot of damage. But here, this is a big one for me. They're taking Baptiste ammo down from 45 to 36. I think this is a good change because Baptiste a lot of time just feels like a DPS. He's able to do so much damage and at the same time sustain his team. It's almost just like your team has a third DPS. So moving his damage or his ammo from 45 to 36, that feels like honestly a good change for the game. I think he was a little bit better than the other supports, but only if you're like reaching his skill ceiling. Like if you're playing Brig at an average level and you're playing Baptiste at an average level, the Brig is going to get more value. But if you're playing Brig at a top 500 level and you're playing Baptiste at a top 500 level, the Baptiste is going to get more value just because he does have a higher skill ceiling with the damage like output capabilities that he can do. So wait, I don't know that there's a penalty for leaving quick play matches now.
I think too many of them.
Oh, I had no idea. Interesting. So yeah, that'll just make quick play feel, more smooth, more competitive.
Yeah, they were talking here about maybe adding like a third queue because they're talking about competitive, talking about quick play. Yeah. They're like some people go into quick play just to try out some new things, and some people quick play is the only way to play the game, and then there's competitive, and so they're talking about having some other bracket, but then it probably breaks up the queues too much, and they said people may not honor those brackets. So they may queue for just because they add another bracket, it doesn't mean that people actually will use it.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, I think quick play, the quick play experience can get ruined. Like it's like a 50-50 of just having like a really terrible experience, or like sometimes you will have just an okay experience. Just you
can see in the paragraph there, the next paragraph down, there are some players that literally leave over 90% of their matches.
Really? No way.
I mean, for me, when the other team leaves, it's kind of like an honor, Like when we're dominating enough that they leave. I feel bad for those that are still on that team, of course. And conversely, I've been on the flip side where I've had teammates leave, right? I do appreciate the fact that they get backfilled relatively quickly. And I don't know if it's just rumor or not, but we've heard plenty of times people like, oh, when it backfills when people leave, it puts better players in. I don't know if that's true. I've heard that several times from folks.
I have no idea, yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I'm like, do they have higher SBMM or?
True, but...
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe people just want to hope, but.
Wow, over 90% of their matches. That's actually like really crazy to see. That's the stat.
So players need to leave almost a quarter of their most recent matches to trigger a light penalty. So I guess apparently they're looking into it. So not really. It's kind of a nothing burger on this last portion, other than just saying they're keeping eyes on it. You know, and again, it's one of those things, and I'm sure it depends on what level of play you're at. You know, it's
I mean, for me, you know, I'm just a ranked grinder. I don't even touch quick play. If I touch quick play, like, I'm really not trying. And like I'm still like trying, you know, like I'm playing the game, but I'm not sweating like it's ranked. But I guess like that's how it's supposed to be, right?
Right.
But maybe from like a lower perspective, maybe you're just like a more mid-tier player, just like maybe a little above average, and like if you're playing quick play, like you don't feel like trying because you just want to have some fun, you know. And so maybe you just start like throwing your game, but you don't really care about it. But honestly, I'm fine with it.
Well, and like it's different though, because I know a different perspective where I have friends that I have some friends, a group of friends that will go do some hardcore World of Warcraft raids or Mythic Plus dungeons, and then they come to Overwatch to kind of relax. But they want to win, and they're good players, but they're not like sweaty players, right? And so it's kind of that mid tier where it's definitely people that are competitive players. They go into quick play to try, like, oh, I want to try out, Junkrat today or whatever, right? They go in there and just kind of mess around. Then conversely, you have people, up until, quite honestly, playing with you, which I've played this game for a bit, I wouldn't have ever touched ranked, and I would just, quick play would have been the only version of the game for me. And, at that point, it's kind of a wild card as to the outcome, right? Because maybe half the people in my lobby are people like you're saying that are just trying out new characters, but I would say that the text chat in those lobbies can get just as sweaty as it does in the ranked play, where
that's just crazy. That's just crazy to me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Everybody wants to win, regardless, I suppose.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, my experience with quick play, I usually have a worse time in quick play than ranked. Because it feels like the matches just aren't as evenly matched because only so many people are trying. But like in ranked, everybody's trying their best and like they're in their rank. So it feels like you can like have some really fun games in ranked because everybody is pretty evenly matched. Like if once you get in like the higher like Grandmaster and up, like sometimes the matches will get weird because like you'll have a random top 500 in your lobby. And like the other team like won't have as many top 500s or something just because.
Who did you say was in your lobby?
Right. Oh, Emong. Yeah.
Yeah, Emong. So he was in one of your lobbies, right?
Yeah. So like Emong he plays with somebody called Flats. Like they're both top 500 tank players, really good tank players, better than me at tank. Even though I've hit top 500 in tank, like they're like at the next level. Like I'm like mid top 500, but they can be like top 100 players. So they get pretty crazy on how good they are. But so I remember back when I was first ranking up to the game, I was running tank and they were just playing their support roles. And they're just like Grandmaster and I was just like bottom Grandmaster on my tank. And like I got them on my game and so like that game, it was kind of unfair for the other team because I had top 500s that were just off-rolling, but they understood the game like at that high level.
Right.
And like the other team, they didn't have top 500s like on their supports. So it was just an easier game for me, and like that's sometimes like things like that'll happen, but in quick play it feels like things like that where it can just skew the odds of the match happens like every other game, and it's like, well, this isn't enjoyable. And then I'll go play comp and everything just feels like it makes sense for me in comp. Well, and I go to quick play, I'm just like, what's going on? What is happening?
Well,
the entire time, like, what is happening?
Yeah, and you're not wrong. I would say, and your placement, if you haven't done comp, and as someone who just started, your placement matches are going to feel stressful because you haven't done it before, and they're going to basically are testing you against various groups of people, and kind of seeing where you fit. So you're going to have rounds where you'll win, you'll have rounds where you'll lose, etc. But I think, I've tried to tell some of my friends that haven't placed yet to suffer through the placement matches, because then it'll get easier. Once you're through the placement matches, the game knows kind of your performance level, and then it's more catered to where you're going to be. And then you shouldn't see, to your point, these wild swings in performance of the competitive team versus yours, because you're kind of now put in the weight class, so to speak, of where you should be.
I really recommend grinding rank. Like, once you get to your rank and like your games are your current level, then you can really just see what's happening, like, and really understand the game and improve it. And you can notice your value. You're like, I did really good, I'm the reason my team won this fight. Because you say you like just started the game, you're in bronze, and you could be like, oh, I played like a silver here, like that's why I won the fight. And it's like, what else do I need to be working on? But in ranked, you really can tell when you're playing better than your rank, because you're usually gonna win those games, and it's like a good feeling to like have that improvement. But I don't know, really the most important thing for me is just not like caring about winning or losing. Like, you just need to focus on don't even focus on playing good, just focus on trying like your best. Really, as long as you're trying your best and you're trying to make the right play, then you're just naturally gonna improve. And like, that's all that really matters. Like, just worry about the things that you can control. You can't control your feeding Reinhardt, pinning the enemy backline. You can't control your Brigitte that thinks she's a Reinhardt and like keeps thinking she's a Reinhardt. She just always thinks she's a Reinhardt. I don't know why. She always thinks she's a Reinhardt, dude. You can't control her though. Like, you can control yourself, and like that's where you have to like find the satisfaction. It's just in your own improvement. And like, even I still struggle with it. I've hit top 500, I've hit Grandmaster every role. And sometimes I'll like set expectations for myself to like play a certain way or do a certain thing, and like I won't meet them, and I'll be like, well, I wanted to play better. But all that really matters is that I'm trying to play better. But now, like, for me, it's just like I'm like setting expectations for myself, and like I'm like meeting them. But as long as I'm trying to play a certain way, that's all that really matters to me. And that's kind of just how I think about ranked improvement, I guess.
Well, cool. Hey, thanks for breaking this down with us, Coach Theory. I did want to get your perspective on it, because I did read through the notes and I heard some opinions from some other folks, but I knew that, given your level of expertise and your history with the game, I figured, and I think it proved true, that you have a valuable input on this. So looking forward to the next season coming out on Tuesday. Pretty excited for it. Prepare for every tank everywhere being Mauga. So, I guess start looking at how to compensate for that. And we'll have some conversations about Mauga when that comes out, as to see how they adjusted. Because I know they have made some changes since the little beta period. Awesome.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed my little ranked rant there, though.
Yeah, no, it's important. It is. Again, like, having been on both sides of it, I can appreciate what it is. But I would say it is, for someone, ranked is such an intimidating thing if you've never done it. You feel like you have, and I've heard both sides, right? You have an expectation of performance from your teammates, and your teammates have an expectation of you. I will say, when I was going through my placement matches as support, and people, of course, being people, were not necessarily nice to me when I was playing, and I was trying Ana, and people were like, hey, Ana, switch, right? People love to say that. And I just said, hey, I'm in my placement matches, and this is what I'm doing. Like, because they're not necessarily in their placement matches.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I had a time where I was only playing Reinhardt. I was like a Reinhardt one trick. I was just like seeing how far I could get with Reinhardt. And like I got to Grandmaster 1 with only Reinhardt. But the thing is, the entire way, it was like I was getting constant shit talked by my team. Like, basically the entire journey. Like, no matter what rank I was at, it was like, switch off Reinhardt. Like, Reinhardt, why are you on Reinhardt? What are you doing, Reinhardt? Like, the entire way. But, it didn't matter. I just ranked up to Grandmaster 1 because I just kind of ignored them and played to how I think about the game instead.
Yep.
Which is something interesting, because I'm telling you, like, 90% of the time, if I look at the interactions with my teammates, it's my teammates thinking I'm the problem. Like, 90% of the time when I was only playing Reinhardt. And that's just, it's a crazy reality. But yeah. Right.
Yeah. No one wants to acknowledge, and we've talked about it before, and I appreciate some of your breakdowns as we go through, and we'll be doing some more breakdowns of replays and Coach going through and kind of analyzing the plays. But there's often a lot more to an exchange than people think, and so the assumption that, oh, the tank went in there and the tank died, so therefore it's a bad tank, not considering the other 14 factors that played into why that happened. You know, it's easy to armchair quarterback.
Yeah, we could go on and on about all the factors and misconceptions, like, oh, you know, like, oh, I had high damage, why didn't I win? Well, it's because you shot the Abyss all game, you know, like, things like that. But,
we had that conversation yesterday as well. We were like, oh, you know, our damage was way higher than the other team. Yeah, because we were putting all the bullets into Roadhog, and he was healing them all back.
Exactly.
So, all right, well, we're going to cut it here, everyone. Thanks again, Coach Theory, for your breakdown and always for your thoughts.
Awesome.
Yeah, and looking forward to the next video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Again, we try to release content pretty regularly here. This is kind of a new venture for us, but Coach Theory has a wealth of knowledge and has really done some great things with our group of friends, as well as his Fiverr channel that he's had up for quite some time now. He does coaching.
Yeah, I just have 3 different packages. The first 2 are for just strictly one-on-one coaching, and then if you're looking to, you know, if you have like a team that you run scrims with or anything, then I'll kind of fill in as the coach for your scrims. But there's just different packages, different preferences that you can choose from, and yeah, it's all on Fiverr.
Make sure to stay subscribed to this channel, and we'll continue to drop content around individual heroes, or like this video where we'll just do an overview of different topics. Thanks for tuning in.